Paramount Studios, Hollywood, April 1954. The casting director's office was on the third floor of the main building. Small room, one desk, two chairs, a window that looked out over the studio lot. At 10:17 a.m., a young actor sat in one of those chairs waiting. His name was James Dean. He was 23 years old. He'd done some television work, a few small theater roles in New York. He'd been in Los Angeles for 8 weeks, living in a one-room apartment on Sunset, auditioning for anything that paid. This audition was different. From Here to Eternity, major studio picture, director Fred Zinnemann. The role, Private Maggio, Italian kid from Brooklyn, small but crucial, the kind of part that could make a career. Dean had read the script 3 times. He knew every line of Maggio's dialogue. He'd practiced the accent, the swagger, the vulnerability underneath. He was ready. At 10:22, the casting director walked in. Middle-aged man, glasses, tired eyes. He was carrying a folder with Dean's headshot clipped to it. James Dean. Yes, sir. The casting director sat behind his desk, opened the folder, looked at the headshot, then at Dean. You're here for Maggio. Yes, sir. You know the character. I do. Tell me about him. Dean leaned forward slightly. Maggio is small, physically, but he's got a big heart. He's loyal to his friends. He doesn't back down from fights even when he should. He's got this defiance. Like he knows the world is gonna crush him, but he's not gonna make it easy. The casting director nodded. Made a note. Where are you from? Indiana. You Italian? No, sir. Can you do the accent? Dean shifted into character. Voice higher. Brooklyn cadence. Hey, I can do whatever you need, pal. You want Italian? I'll give you Italian. You want Brooklyn? I got Brooklyn common out my ears. The casting director smiled slightly. That's good, natural. Thank you. How old are you? 23. The casting director looked at the headshot again, then at Dean. You look younger. I can play older. Maggio is supposed to be early 20s. You're right in the range. Dean didn't say anything, just waited. The casting director closed the folder. Okay, let's do a read. I'll feed you lines. You respond as Maggio. Yes, sir. They ran through 2 scenes. Dean was sharp. Quick, he found the rhythm of the character immediately. The casting director didn't stop him, didn't give notes, just let him work. After the second scene, the casting director set down the script. That was excellent, he said. Dean felt his heart rate pick up. Thank you. Really, you understood the character, the vulnerability, the toughness. You nailed it. I appreciate that. The casting director leaned back in his chair. Here's the problem. Dean's stomach dropped, sir. The role is already cast. Dean stared at him. What? Maggio, it's already cast, has been for 2 weeks. Then why? Dean stopped, took a breath. Then why am I here? The casting director looked uncomfortable. Because someone upstairs wanted to see you read for it anyway, for future consideration. Future consideration? Yes. Dean stood. With respect, sir, I don't audition for roles that are already cast. I understand, but… No, Dean's voice was quiet but firm. I spent 3 weeks preparing for this. I turned down other auditions because I thought this was real. And you're telling me it was fake, that I was just… What? Practice. The casting director didn't answer. Dean picked up his jacket from the back of the chair. Who got the role? The casting director hesitated. I can't tell you that. Why not? Because it's not finalized. But it's cast. Yes. Dean walked to the door, stopped, turned back. You know what the worst part is? Dean said quietly. It's not that I didn't get the role. It's that someone thought it was okay to waste my time, to bring me in here and make me audition for something that was never available in the first place. The casting director looked down at his desk. I'm sorry, I don't make those decisions. I know, but you carried them out, and that makes you part of it. Dean walked out. He was halfway across the studio lot when he heard someone call his name. Dean. Hey, Dean, wait up. He turned. A man was jogging toward him. Younger guy, maybe 30, assistant director or production assistant, Dean couldn't tell. Yeah, Dean said. The man caught up, slightly out of breath. You just auditioned for Maggio. Yeah. How'd it go? Dean stared at him. Are you serious? What? The role is already cast. You didn't know that. The man's face changed. Oh shit, I'm sorry man, I didn't know. "Eh, well, now you do." Dean started walking again. The man kept pace. "Look, I know that sucks," the man said. "But for what it's worth, I heard you were really good in there." "Doesn't matter." "It might. Hollywood's a small town. People remember good auditions. They also remember wasted time." The man didn't respond to that. They walked in silence for a moment. Then, "You want to grab a coffee? There's a commissary around the corner." Dean stopped. "Why?" "Because you look like you need to talk to someone, and I've been where you are." Dean studied him. "Who are you?" Danny Schwartz. "I'm a second AD on another picture. I've been in this town for 5 years. I've had my share of bullshit auditions." Dean thought about it. Then, "Yeah, okay, coffee." They they walked to the commissary, got coffee, sat at a table in the back. "So who got the role?" Dean asked. Danny shook his head. "I don't know for sure, but there's a rumor." "What rumor?" "Frank Sinatra." Dean set down his coffee cup. "Frank Sinatra." "Yeah, the singer. He's also an actor. Was in a few musicals in the 40s. Took a break. Now he's trying to come back." Dean leaned back in his chair. "Sinatra is wrong for Maggio. He's too old, too polished. Maggio is supposed to be scrappy, young. Sinatra looks like he belongs in a nightclub, not a barracks." "I don't disagree. So why is he getting the role?" Danny shrugged. "Because he's Frank Sinatra. Because he's got connections. Because studios care more about names than about who's right for the part." Eh? Dean was quiet for a moment. Then, "That's what I'm up against. I'm competing with people who don't have to audition because they're already famous." "Welcome to Hollywood." Dean drank his coffee. It was bitter. He didn't care. "You know what the casting director said to me?" Dean said after a moment. "He said my audition was for future consideration. Like I should be grateful they wasted my time. That's how it works sometimes." "It shouldn't work that way." "No, but it does." They sat in silence for a while. The commissary was filling up. Crew members on lunch break. Actors in costume. The low hum of conversation. Finally, Danny said, "You gonna keep auditioning? What choice do I have? You could go back to New York, do theater. At least there you're judged on talent, not connections." Dean thought about it. "No, I came here to make movies. I'm not leaving until I do." Danny smiled. "Good, because you're good. I saw your headshot on the casting director's desk. You've got a look, you've got presence, you'll get there." "When?" "When it's your time." "And when's that?" "I don't know, but it'll happen. You just have to outlast the bullshit." 3 weeks later, the announcement came. Frank Sinatra had been cast as Private Maggio in From Here to Eternity. The trade papers ran stories. Sinatra's comeback role. From crooner to actor. Can Frank Sinatra pull it off? James Dean read the articles in his apartment. He didn't feel angry anymore, just tired. He kept auditioning, small roles, television parts, anything that paid. And then 8 months later he got a call, East of Eden. Elia Kazan directing. Warner Brothers, the lead role, he auditioned, got the part. The movie came out in 1955. It made James Dean a star. From Here to Eternity came out in 1953. Frank Sinatra won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. Years later, someone asked Elia Kazan why he cast James Dean in East of Eden. "Because he was hungry," Kazan said. "What do you mean?" "I mean he wanted it more than anyone else. You could see it in his audition. He wasn't performing. He was fighting for the role, like his life depended on it. And that's what you wanted. That's what the character needed. Someone who understood what it felt like to want something and not get it. Someone who knew rejection. James had that in his bones." "Did he tell you about the Maggio audition?" Kazan looked surprised. "How do you know about that?" "I heard the story. That he auditioned for From Here to Eternity, and the role was already cast." Kazan nodded slowly. He mentioned it once, said it was the most humiliating experience of his career, that he'd been used, that Hollywood was rigged for people with connections. "And you think that experience helped him?" "I think it shaped him. I think it taught him that talent isn't enough, that you have to be willing to keep fighting even when the system tells you you're not wanted. And that anger, that defiance, that's what made him great." In 1962, 3 years after James Dean died in a car crash, Someone asked Frank Sinatra about From Here to Eternity. That role saved my career, Sinatra said. How so? I was done, washed up. Nobody wanted to hire me, and then I got Maggio, and it reminded people that I could act, that I wasn't just a singer. It gave me a second chance. Did you know the role was competitive? Sinatra looked at them. Everything in Hollywood is competitive, but there were other actors who wanted it, who auditioned for it. I'm sure there were. Does that bother you? That you got the role because of who you were, not necessarily because you were the best choice? Sinatra's face hardened. I got the role because I fought for it. I lobbied. I begged. I did everything I could to convince them I was right for it. And when I got it, I worked my ass off to prove they made the right choice. So no, it doesn't bother me, because I earned it. Even if someone else might have been better. Nobody was better. I won the Oscar. The movie was a success. I was right for the role. End of story. But, end of story, Sinatra repeated. The interviewer didn't push further. In 1998, a film historian was researching From Here to Eternity. They found old casting notes in the Paramount archives. One of the notes, dated April 1954, read, James Dean auditioned for Maggio. Excellent read. Natural talent. Wrong timing. Role already promised to Sinatra. Recommend for future projects. Below that, someone had written in pen, too late. Dean signed with Warner's. The historian included the note in a book about Hollywood casting decisions. Most people who read it focused on Frank Sinatra winning the Oscar, but a few people who understood what it meant to be on the wrong side of timing, read that note and thought about James Dean, about how close he came to getting a role that would have changed his career a year earlier, about how he auditioned for something that was never really available, about how he kept going anyway. And they wondered, what if the humiliation of that audition, the anger, the defiance, the feeling of being used, was exactly what Elia Kazan saw in him later? What if losing Maggio is what made him right for East of Eden? What if the worst moment of his career prepared him for the best? When you're 23 years old and you audition for a role that's already been cast, and the casting director makes you perform anyway for future consideration, are you being used? Or are you being tested to see if you're hungry enough to keep fighting even when the system is rigged against you? And when you walk out of that audition furious, humiliated, and determined never to let someone waste your time again, is that bitterness? Or is that the fuel you need to prove that talent without connections can still win, just not today? Because maybe the difference between giving up and breaking through is whether you let one humiliating audition define you. And maybe the people who make it aren't the ones who never get rejected. They're the ones who get rejected, learn from it, and come back angrier and better and hungrier than before. James Dean didn't get Maggio, but he got something more valuable. He got the rage to prove that next time when the role was actually available, he'd be undeniable. And Frank Sinatra didn't steal the role from James Dean. He just got there first. Because in Hollywood, timing isn't everything, but it's close.